Hi, I'm Bill Bradley. Join me for a recent excerpt of American Voices. When Felicia Curcuru's sister wanted to adopt children, Felicia saw how difficult the process was. The social workers were trying, all the different agencies, the paperwork. There was too much bureaucracy, and it was slowing things down, which meant the children were waiting for foster families, waiting for a loving home, waiting for a support system, waiting. Well, Felicia wanted to help, so she used technology to make the process easier, more efficient, and equitable. She started Benty, a mobile-friendly platform. Benty works with 190 agencies and is in 27 states. Felicia Curcuru is here with me now. Felicia, welcome to American Voices.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me about your sister and what you went through and how it affected you.
My sister and her husband are just such loving people. They wanted to adopt, and they almost dropped out of the process a bunch of times because they were just so stressed.
Like what? Tell us a story or two.
Yeah, they would submit paperwork and then it would get lost. And then, their social worker would change and then they'd have to resubmit the process, resubmit the paperwork. And it was just really unwelcoming. And I think I hear that from a lot of families that, they say, if this is what the process is like now, what is the process going to be like once I actually have a child in care? And then a lot of families drop out.
So what did you do?
So, back in 2016, I spent 4 months shadowing different child welfare agencies around the country. And so what I saw was that each of these different teams were doing things extremely manually. So huge stacks of paperwork, literally rooms of file cabinets of paperwork, messy Excel spreadsheets, sticky notes everywhere. And it was really hampering their ability to effectively help these children have families. Imagine just a place that's a database where you put data, but it's not actually helping you do the work, saving you time, helping you do your social work out in the field and driving outcomes for children. And so what we've really tried to do, Binti's first product, it's sort of like TurboTax to be a foster adoptive family. It lets families apply online on their phone, just makes it really welcoming to get you through the process to be able to foster and adopt children. And it's also really modern for the social workers, letting them track the background checks, do their social work on their mobile phone while they're out in the field to get families through the process more easily.
So Benty specifically does what in terms of you use the phone? The phone has access to all the files, or how does it work?
So there's 7 teams in child welfare doing different aspects of the work. And we're basically going one by one and building a really modern mobile-friendly software to drive that team's work, ultimately with the goal of helping children have families. So our first module, called our approvals module, is all about approving families. Our second module matches families with children, trying to find the right match, trying to keep children with their siblings. And now what's really exciting is we're working on our third module, which is getting into giving services and tracking the services given to families to help them reunify with their kids or stay with their kids in the first place. So it's software that enables the social workers to track their caseload, track the services, track the effectiveness of those services, ultimately to help those families be successful. And, our first module is really our most widespread module. It's now in over 190 agencies in 27 states. We've helped approve over 40,000 families. So, on average, when agencies work with us, they approve 80% more families a year, and they approve them 16% faster.
80% more families?
Yeah, exactly. So, when agencies hear that, even if they're not tech savvy, I think they are like, well, let's try this. This is important.
Can you tell us what's it like for children in this process? What happens to them if they have to wait a long time for a family?
Yeah, I can tell an anonymous example of a child that has a really touching story that I know. So she came into foster care at the age of 9. There were not enough families in her area. And so she went into a group home, which group homes are, basically institutional care. She had been abused. And so she was triggered by different things and would get into fights with other kids. And then the staff would put her in holds and literally hold her to the ground. It was just really, really hard to watch. I was there several times when this happened. And, she would act up and then she'd get kicked out of group homes. And in the course of about 6 years, she moved placements 12 times.
But where would she go if she got kicked out of a group home?
To a different group home.
Oh.
And it's frankly really hard to focus in school when you're constantly moving and constantly scared of, being moved. And she was moved really far from her mom. And the goal was her mom had certain, substance abuse issues and different issues. And the goal is that, ultimately help her mom get services and then help her reunify. But she was moved really far from her mom. So they're not even able to have visits, which was really hard on them. What I think one of the things I'm like so proud of is, in her area, Benty launched, we helped increase the number of families a lot. And then she was able to move into a family setting and she started doing better in school. She was a lot happier. She was able to start having visits with her mom because she was close to her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And actually she reunified recently with her mom.
Really?
Yeah. And so, that's the importance of having more families nearby. And I think I'm just, I'm really proud of our impact on her. And I'm hopeful that we're having impact like that on a lot of other children.
Well, can you tell us a couple of other stories of kids you've helped?
Part of this challenge is group homes, and group homes will call the police over very small things when kids act up. I know this girl who at the age of 11 was sent to juvenile hall over, something I would have been sent to my room over. And this 11-year-old was in a juvenile hall, really far from anyone she knew. She, was super innocent, sweet girl, but started learning gang signs in juvenile hall and was crying, telling me she thought she was going to die in there. And ultimately she did get out of there, ultimately was able to get into a family setting, was able to reunify. And I'm hopeful that like our, increasing the number of families helped with that. And we just really need to increase the number of families so that no kid has to be in a group home.
So you have the problem of the foster care system being overly bureaucratic and inefficient. And then you have the structural problem of having the existence of these group homes, which are not particularly helpful for the child. So they're two separate problems and you impact both?
Yeah, we do because, group homes are created because there's not enough families. And I think we're helping approve more families to make that possible. But I'm also excited to help more children reunify with their families and, help more children get placed with relatives and help more families get services so they don't have to separate in the first place.
And the way you help them is you streamline the process.
Yeah. So the relative stuff, helping more children get placed with relatives is something we're looking at in the coming year or two. I know a foster youth who he was in foster care. He's now in his late 20s, but he, went into foster care as a baby, aged out, never had real permanency. And he found out after he aged out of foster care that he had aunts and uncles that were foster parents 58 miles away in another state. And no one made that connection. And you hear that all the time. So he could have been with family.
So that's a connection that you would make automatically because it's all in the data.
Yeah, we're looking to basically help make that easier for agencies to find those people.
I entered the foster care system as a baby and went from home to home to home. I didn't get adopted. I finally found some aunts and uncles and found out that they were foster adopted parents for longer than I have been alive. So I missed out on actually being raised with family, all because the workers didn't have the right tools to find those folks who were 58 miles away from me the entire time.
When you deal with this issue, it's so personal with your sister, but it's also so personal in terms of a human being. Did you ever cry?
Oh, all the time, for sure.
Like when?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
I mean, those examples of the foster youth that I talked about of, the moving to different group homes, going to juvenile hall, like in each of those situations, I cried. As I've gotten to know children in foster care, like they're also just amazing, sweet kids, right? And like, I think it's important for them to be appreciated for that and be seen for that. And so when I like volunteer with different foster youth, like I know, like I call them out on those things and I notice that it's amazing how you love to try new food and you're so funny and like just different things like that.
You ever want to be a foster parent?
I think it's very likely. Yes.
That's really admirable that you want to be a foster parent.
Yeah.
is the best indication of where your values are and where your heart is.
Thank you.
And to me, that's the most moving thing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, Felicia, I want to thank you for being on American Voices. You're doing such important work for children in America and their families. Everyone deserves a loving, supportive home, and you're making that happen in many, many, and increasingly more. So thank you for being on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I've been speaking with Felicia Curcuru of Benty. To find out more, visit us on our Facebook page. It's American Voices with Senator Bill Bradley.
It is actually putting the power in the workers' hands so that they can serve the family.
I don't know what we would do without Binti.
Yeah, it's like going from the Stone Age to the Space Age.
Thank you for listening to American Voices here on my YouTube channel. For more interviews celebrating the goodness and creativity of the American people, click the subscribe button below.